So UFC 325 might be Volk's retirement fight. If he retires after beating Diego Lopes, if he beats Diego Lopes, I would undoubtedly say he is the 145 GOAT. Volk would retire on a home title defense, and his case becomes a lot more clear because I'm sure these two wins over Lopez would age very well for Volk. And that's another thing. UFC 326, Max Holloway, he takes on Charles Oliveira for a BMF title defense. Max Holloway, he could keep winning on his 155 path, and those three wins Volk has over him, even though one of them was controversial, those would age very well too. Because even say Max does rematch Ilya at 155, say he beats Ilya, Max was already a win that weighed heavy on Volk's resume. If that happens, you couldn't argue with it anymore. Because to me, right now, Volk is the featherweight GOAT. But if Volk doesn't retire like he says he's not going to, when does he retire? You'd think that this is the perfect setup given it's in Australia, his home country. So if not now, is he going to wait a whole other year for the UFC to go back to Australia? Because Australia is now becoming an annual event for the UFC. So I couldn't see him retiring anywhere else, knowing the UFC will likely revisit soon. If he doesn't retire, how much more can he continue to separate himself from number two all time if he doesn't retire? Right now, it looks like it'll be a long time before someone catches Volk at 145, but there's a lot of young players at 145, a whole new generation coming up right now. And no matter what, we will always be in this loop of the next era of champions will dethrone the past era of champions as the GOAT of that division because the sport evolves and fighters get better, etc., etc. So let's break down what happens next if Volk doesn't retire. And you could call this a legacy expansion plan. So whoever you believe is 145 GOAT, it's either between Volkanovski or Jose Aldo. Aldo ran the featherweight division for years, way before Volk came around, and he totaled his title defenses to 7. Volk is at 5 right now. With a win over Diego, he'd only be 1 away from tying. So if he can get one more and tie it, I think there's no debate. But let's say Volk is targeting Australia in 2027 to retire, which is likely going to be Q1. Then he has a year to play with and potentially get the record 8th title defense. So that's the plan laid out. Get his 6th title defense at UFC 325, get the 7th later this year, and get the record 8th in Australia next year. But who's going to fight Volk if he beats Diego? Well, right now, especially as of late, Lerone Murphy has been the people's choice for who should have been Volk's UFC 325 matchup. Now, I'm not going to get into the politics too much, but I do want to mention Movsar Evloev here. A year ago, the last time he fought, people seemed to say he should fight for the title next, but a lot has happened since then. Ilya Topuria, he vacated the title in February and moved up, becoming lightweight champion. Then Volk versus Lopez 1 happened in April, where Volk reclaimed his title, and in July, the fight that would have kept Evloev in the conversation for next title shot was derailed by a supposed Evloev injury that forced Evloev to pull out and allowed Lerone Murphy to step in and pull off an all-time spinning elbow KO on the debut in Bellator prospect, Aaron Pico. So with all of that in mind, it's pretty safe to say here is number 7. And one of these very likely will be number 7, as this fight is actually being targeted for UFC London in March. So, winner could potentially turn around for August or September. So, there goes number 7. So, who would be Volk's record breaking number 8? Well, that's a lot more tricky. Given that it's a year out, it could be a handful of names. But let's start with the loser of Lerone Murphy versus Movsar Evloev. That makes sense, but they aren't going to sit out on a loss and fight for the title then. They need to get a win before they can do that. So let's look at where the featherweight landscape might look like by then. And I'm going to just go ahead and say this. No way they do Aljamain Sterling. Dana hates him. Yair, get the fuck out. I'm not even going to talk about you. I think for number 8, we're going to get another guy who isn't really the most deserving, but has a credible name, has a fan base behind him, and adds hype to a matchup with Volk. I'm thinking about guys who can climb the rankings fast. I'm thinking of guys like Steve Garcia, maybe a Kevin Vallejos, given that they keep winning, of course. I think both of these guys would need 2 ranked wins in 2026 to make that big push for a title shot by early 2027. These are my dark horses. I can see one of them fighting up in the rankings soon. But if I had to choose someone more likely, I'm leaning on Gene Silva. I mean, tell me you wouldn't want to see Volk versus Evil Volk. That's a matchup I love thinking about. And good thing Arnold Allen and Gene Silva fight at 324, so we can see who's going to be put on a path for a title shot. Again, I'm leaning Silva. He could have been fighting Volk right now had he not gotten smacked by that elbow from Lopez at UFC Noche. He was piecing up Lopez until he got caught, so who knows what would have happened there. I think it'd be perfect for Volk to go out on a win against Evil Volk. That's just a matchup I want to see before Volk hangs him up, and is likely to happen if Silva can keep improving his game. So let's see what happens this 2026. I'm excited for this year, and I think it's going to be a lot better of a year than 25. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Give me your thoughts, because I think Volk is likely going to beat Diego Lopez. And if he loses to Diego, well, I don't know. Maybe he should retire then and there, but we'll see what happens. So if you haven't already, please like this and subscribe to help the channel grow. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Bye.